Can you hear?
Yeah, not really.
It's not on the committee.
Go on YouTube, and we're gonna start recording, and then we'll start the meeting.
All right, I'd like to call the July meeting to order. First order of business, pledge of allegiance. Please pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next order of business, roll call, please.
Shannon Thayer, present. Josh Kretzer. Wendell Hughes.
There.
Mark Henry. Kimberly Davis. Carl Weiss. Charlie Harrington. Meg Wood.
You.
Tyler.
We're having trouble hearing you, but Meg's here.
Oh, thank you. Sean Gilliland. Mike Diskin. Jim Dugan. Clay Arsenal.
Here.
Beth Hunt.
Here.
Chrissy Welp.
Here.
Brian Wells. Jody Small.
Here.
Tracy Eldridge. John Taplin.
Here.
Frank Thomas. John Stroud. Kevin Garrity. Christine Norton. Kevin Hajos. Sue Clary. Sam Hall.
Here.
Dave O'Brien.
Here,
Bob Henke. Al Nolet.
Present.
Deb Donahue.
Here.
Oh, Deb's there?
Bob was here too.
Oh, hey, Deb.
okay,
Got you, Bob.
we have a quorum. Can you all hear us?
Is it better if I speak into the mic?
Not really.
I'm just wondering if we can switch the.
Yeah.
I'll just try to be loud, and then if I fade out, just stop me and let me know. Yes, we have a quorum.
All right, next item of business is treasurer's report.
Al.
I'm waiting for your chairman.
Pardon?
You all set, sir?
I'm all set.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. You got your treasurer's reports mailed to you this morning. Couple of things I wanted to note out. First, I'll throw myself under the bus. You'll notice that your statements say March 31st at the top of them. They are actually June 30th, not March 31st. I apologize for that oversight. I'm also happy to report that after we got the second quarter invoices all in and caught up with the DEC building, finally we have an executed contract. We're actually showing a little bit of a surplus this year. And there's a couple of little smaller invoices yet to come. So that is outstanding news. We've caught up some of the 2023 monies that were lagging us behind in last year's financials. So some of this year's surplus is actually money that was due to us in 23 that you didn't see reflected in the financials, which you will see later in the meeting. Other than that, the only thing that I wanted to note is, as predicted, we did run a little tight on cash this month, and it is something that is going to be a temporary situation until some of these claims come back in. Remember, the broadband and housing grants and stuff like that require us to lay the money out first and then get reimbursed. So while it's an uncomfortable position for a few days, it is definitely one of those things that is a speed bump and not a barrier. So while it gives your treasurer angina, it's something that passes very quickly with a little bit of time. So, but again, it's not anything that Beth didn't discuss with us at budget time last year when we all adopted the budget and approved these grants. We all know that they're reimbursement based, and anybody who's been in the grant world and county government before knows that some people pay very quickly and some people not so much. And that's just the world that we live in. Thankfully, we have a really good relationship with Washington County, and it makes all this stuff flow pretty nicely right now. And other than that, I don't have anything of note that's not going to be included in the best report.
Any questions for Al? I do need to back up and ask for approval of the April 9th, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
Make a motion.
Motion by Wendell, do I have a second? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Shannon? Any additions or corrections? All in favor? Can everyone in the other rooms hear us?
Barely, but yes.
Barely, yeah.
Okay, well,
I turned you up.
just,
We heard Al, let Al talk, because he was kind of clear, wasn't he? It was
Yeah.
easy to hear Al, you can't hear anybody else.
We can't hear him from that end of the table.
Oh, is that what it is? It's the table.
I think they need to speak right into that microphone.
can you hear us now?
Is that better?
It did something.
Turning you up.
Not really.
Chris now?
We can hear you. It's
Yeah,
about
just-
the same.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Just move on, yep.
Okay.
Okay. Next order of business is approval of 2020. All in favor? Next item is approval of 2023 audit.
Nope, we didn't do treasurer.
You
We just did the
oh,
minutes, now we have to do the treasurer's report.
Treasury report. I need a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
I saw Beth's hand go up.
And Christie's hand went up. Got a motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm.
Opposed? Carried. Now I need to do the abstracts that were mailed out. Need a motion to accept the abstracts as mailed. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Wendell. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Shannon? All in favor?
I'm.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next is approval of the 2023 audit as mailed. I need a motion to accept the approval of the 2023 audit. Do I have a motion on the 2023 audit? Beth's hand is up. I need a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Christie. Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is approval of workforce housing revolving loan fund. I'd like to pass it over to Beth to discuss that and explain
So we got a Northern Border Regional Commission to establish a workforce housing revolving loan fund. So you all know our small business revolving loan fund, if someone were to come to us, they can only use that money to renovate commercial space that can't be utilized for apartments. So we secured funding, other funding to be able to do long-term apartment lending in our 5 counties. So in working with a committee with members from the Adirondack Foundation, Adirondack Roots, Glens Falls National, the APA, DOS, and New York State's Homes and Community Renewal, we came up with a revolving loan fund management plan. Because this funding is from MBRC, it's different than our EDA funding. So I wanted to have a different management plan for this committee to operate under to give loans. So I just want to go through it a little bit and just pick out some highlight parts so you guys can understand what we're trying to do with this program. So this is for long-term rentals for year-round residents and what we're calling workforce housing. And when we say workforce housing, we're looking at the 80 to 200% area median income housing. Our target borrowers are undercapitalized customers that are seeking to purchase or renovate independently owned and operated long-term rentals. The target housing unit types are mixed use and multi-unit buildings. We are not doing renovations on one-family homes, even if they are to be rented. So preference is going to be given to buildings that are located within hamlets and developed areas, at least for the first round of lending. Our eligible lending areas are the 5 counties and communities with a population of less than 10,000. So this is really targeted for the hamlet areas. throughout our 5 counties to be able to get long-term rentals within those developed areas to get people to be able to move into the hamlet areas where services already exist. The eligible borrowers are for-profit companies only. The loans can be used to renovate, rehabilitate, and also for acquisition, but it can't be an acquisition-only loan. So you can't get a loan from us just to buy a building that you're thinking about possibly turning into rentals. You have to have a plan for long-term rentals in that area or in that building. Page 5, some highlights. Credit not otherwise available is a requirement from MVRC, so it's not necessarily, the way that's written, it's not necessarily a bank declination letter, but there has to be some kind of documentation that there was a conversation with the bank and that they can't fully finance the project. Our minimum and maximum loan amounts, so 25,000 up to 150,000. Interest rates for the first round of lending is set at 4%. But we do reserve the right in this to increase the rate for future lending rounds. And the reason we put that in there is because right now we have a grant to cover my time in working on this program, but in the future, like our small business funds, there's no more grant to cover admin and we have to pay for administration of the fund some way. So right now we're looking at really low interest loans, but the interest might have to go up to cover expenses in the future. Repayment terms are
Beth, can I have a question on that? 4%, so if they go to a bank and their bank's going to 6 to 7%, does getting a lower interest rate qualify?
no.
Therefore, I just want to clarify that. Thanks.
Repayment terms are based on the loan amount, so 25,000 to 50,000 is up to 4 years, 50 to 100 is up to 7 years, and 100 to 150 is up to 10 years. Then it goes into kind of the standard, you know, we can do interest-only periods if there's an individual entity owning 20% or more of any of the tangible property, then they have to do personal guarantees, collateral requirements, obviously like our small business loan funds. We're hoping to get first mortgages on the property, but we'll look at whatever is available. The committee did decide they wanted to put a prepayment penalty on it. And the reason is because later in the document, I'll show you where we're going to monitor the property for the life of the loan plus 3 years to make sure that it stays as a long-term rental. We don't want people borrowing money from us, paying it off 3 months later, and then trying to turn something into an Airbnb. So if you are going to play the system, it's going to cost you, I guess, if you're going to try to pay the loan off quickly, you at least have to pay a 5% prepayment penalty. The rest is kind of the standard loan modifications are allowable. They have to go through the committee. On to page 7. Restrictions on use of capital are put out by the funding agencies, so it's a list of those restrictions. Page 8, there's an application fee. The application requirements are very similar to what we do in our other program. We've established a target of 20 weeks to turn a loan around, and that's because all the loans will be subject to NEPA, which I'll get into in a second. Page 9 is the standard underwriting and application reviews that we do. Page 10, there will be a 2% closing fee due to the Regional Planning Board. And, you know, as a condition of the loan, and there'll be stuff in our closing documentation that the funds obtained will be utilized in the manner in which they're intended. On page 10 starts the continued affordability compliance. So at the loan closing, we're going to place a deed restriction on the property that the rental units are in, that they must stay long-term rentals. And then on to page 11, all borrowers are going to be required to submit annual rental rules and rates to us, and also certify that all units are long-term rentals. Do an annual certification for the life of the loan plus 3 years. If we find out that they are not being used as intended, we reserve the right to foreclose them and collateral immediately. The NEPA process, so there's three things that it could be: a CADX, an environmental assessment, or environmental impact statement. This is going to really increase the time where we're going to be able to give a loan, but this is an MVRC requirement and there's nothing we can do about it. So we just have to do it.
Great.
Gonna say.
The question?
Now.
We could start hearing you now, so sorry, I said yay.
Oh.
Hear you now.
It was really loud. Sorry.
So we at the Regional Planning Board will screen all of the projects for the NEPA criteria, so we kind of know what bucket they will go into, but the official NEPA process won't start until after the loan has been approved. The CADX is what we're hoping they will all fall under. But if the building is historical, or if it's in a floodplain, it'll probably end up having to be an environmental assessment. We did put some of the grant money aside to pay a consultant to do the NEPA, so it won't be on us to do, and it won't be on the borrower to pay for, but it's definitely going to increase the time between the loan approval and the closing. And so we'll just make any borrowers really aware of that. Again, it's just something we have to do. It's nothing that we can get around. The one part of this I don't have in yet is on page 12, which is BABA, Build America, Buy America Act. I'm working with the NBRC attorneys right now to determine whether our projects fall under this or not. I don't think that they do, because this is not technically an infrastructure loan. This was a non-infrastructure loan, even though we're doing construction with it. So I think it's a little bit of a sticky part. So the attorneys are going to come back. And again, there's nothing I can do. We're just going to have to do whatever NBRC tells us to do. So, I will be asking for approval of the plan plus any additional narrative that needs to go into the BABA section. And then the rest of the document is our standard loan stuff, the files that we keep, how we operate, how we monitor, how we deal with delinquencies, the administrative structure. I do want to create a new committee for this. Our existing loan committee are commercial lenders, and this is a very different world. So we've chosen some people that work in this and really understand the housing world within the Adirondacks that I think will do a really good job of being able to give good loans. The last thing that I have it back here. So page 17, the last page, the income. I put the anticipated maximum usage is 75%. However, we reserve the right to utilize up to 100% if necessary of the income for our administrative expenses. Does anybody have any questions on our workforce housing revolving loan fund management plan?
Okay, you can still hear us?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
Loud and clear.
You may fix something on there too. Okay.
okay, thanks.
Gus, this
Okay.
need approval from MBRC like ED had approved the RLS.
Yeah, I'll send it to NBRC after the board approves it.
So it's subject to their approval as well.
So,
For your BABA section, could you just put in that we'll comply with any state federal regulations, including that number 2, Bob, and you're just
Yeah.
covered in that.
Yeah, that works for me.
When you got through like the med section, what was that? There's certain nets that are allowed that are predetermined.
No, they're not predetermined, but we want to make sure that they're not utilizing this funding to create luxury apartments. And so they just have to certify the rents to us. So, if they come in and we see the rent's $5,000 a month, I don't think they're looking at workforce housing.
so there are guidelines. They cover workforce housing, imagine we look at that, and that goes almost by community basis.
But that's, I was just curious for that.
Yeah,
I was interested in looking at it.
yeah, it's a guideline for us to make sure that it's not. And also, this funding is not supposed to be used to supplement anything that a low income tax credit anyway, so it's both ends.
So I did have a question on the 3% cap and increase. What happens if taxes or we go through another period of severe inflation? Would be provision to be able to change that?
Yeah, and it's our program, we can change if we want.
Any more questions for Beth on this? I'd like to thank Beth for this innovative program we're working on and all the crew that worked on it, because I think it's a great thing to help get some in there. And I know that there's some other things that we're dealing with housing, so we have a severe need for upgrading and adding housing. So thanks, Beth and crew. I need a motion to accept the plan.
I'll move it.
Oh, Sam? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Well, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Next is the loan review committee. Beth has provided a list of proposed members of that committee.
Yep, so we have Lori Bellingham. She is the Vice President of Community Impact for the Adirondack Foundation. They're a nonprofit that's been working on housing throughout the Adirondacks. Adam DeSantis is the Director of Economic Development for Roost in Lake Placid. He's actually working on multiple workforce housing projects in and around Lake Placid. Victoria Dooley is the Executive Director of the Adirondack Economic Development Corp. They are a nonprofit lender, a CDFI, so she very much understands on the lending thing, but they're also looking to kind of dip their toes into housing as well. So I thought it would be a good bridge between our two organizations. Megan Murphy is the Executive Director of Adirondack Roots. They are an RPC. They're also a nonprofit housing developer. Molly Ryan is the Executive Director of the Clinton County IDA and the Director of Economic Development for Clinton County. Again, the IDA is working on housing, and I think she'll bring a good perspective from that economic development world into it. Christy, obviously as Hamilton County IDA and working on housing in Hamilton County, but she's also the chair of our current loan fund, or loan committee, loan administrative committee for the small business. So I thought it would be good continuity between the two loan fund committees. And she's kind of like, would be our board rep, I guess, on the committee like she is for the loans. And Mark Yersha from Glenn
National Bank. Oh, shoot, sorry.
That's it.
Okay.
And Allison is fired as director of IT.
I just want to make sure the reporting is set.
Next time we come 2 hours ahead of time. Make sure we work it all out.
And sometimes getting fired.
Right, I know.
Work to my skill set.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Mike plays with that thing. Mike can make that.
Okay, so I need a motion to appoint that committee.
I'll move it.
Moved by Wendell, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Sam Hall. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Next item is budget time. We're going to talk about salary schedule and budget. So the first item is the salary schedule. With you, you've had a proposed salary schedule for 2025. I hope you've all had an opportunity to review that. And I'll let Beth explain how this worked out and how it was calculated.
Thanks. So all positions received a 3.5% cost of living raise. The principal planner position also received a $350 longevity bonus, as did the junior planner position. You'll notice that I removed the business development coordinator position. Ian left the agency back at the end of April. I don't want to rehire that as a full-time position. And so I have a solution that when we get to the full budget, I'd like to propose. So I've removed that from the salary schedule. Currently, so you know, the senior planner position at 70,000 is vacant, but we're looking for someone. And the operations coordinator position at 65,250 is also currently vacant. So we have a director, a principal planner, an economic development coordinator, an assistant economic development coordinator, a junior planner, and an administrative assistant currently on the
Any questions?
I think it's worthy to note the administrative assistant is part-time.
Yes, sorry, admin assistant is less than part-time, actually.
I will need a motion to adopt the salary schedule.
I'll move it.
Moved by Wendell. Do I have a second?
Second.
John? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Gary? Next item of business is the budget. This is gonna be fun.
Buckle up. All right, we will go through the expense category first. I'm just gonna go down line by line. If you have a question, please stop me. Salaries, as we just mentioned, 554,701. I budget fringe for employees at 40%. We really range around 30%, annually. The fringe for retirees went down because we actually had a retiree pass away at the end of last year. Insurance, I increased slightly just because of costs. Rent with the town of Lake George is stable. Our legal fees, we just put that in there in case we have to do something legal that does not involve the loan funds. Our accounting is $10,000. Our audit, I have budgeted at $16,000. We currently have an RFP out, so we do an RFP for an auditor every 3 years. 2023 was our last year. So I assumed those costs were gonna go up, so I put them up to $16,000. The UCC renewals and the credit reports, the technology assistance we increased, because I think we're gonna switch vendors, pretty soon. The website we increased because we're looking at making some changes to it, and we'll probably have to pay Boyer Benner to do some work on it. Operating expenses stayed the same, around 45. I increased travel and training, 5,000, assuming that the mileage is gonna go up for next year, the federal mileage rate. The strategic plan, I've got the RFP almost done, and I keep telling myself I have to get out, so I keep leaving that in the budget. The next is contracts. So the first one is the loan officer. So this is my solution to eliminating the business development coordinator. I'd like to look for a 1099 employee, or not a 1099 contractor who is not an employee, to help work on the loans when we need it, to do the underwriting. The loan fund itself is not a full-time job. And so we've had to supplement it with other community development work, and we have just found throughout the years that that doesn't work as a position, and as a skill set. So I'd like to just have someone on contract that can do the underwriting, bring the loans to committee, and do that work when needed, and not carry them as an employee. The remainder are all contracts that we are working on, where we are paying the consultant. So we have kind of two ways we do things. We work with counties and towns where they're paying the consultants, but we have projects where we're paying with the consultants. So this list is where we're paying the consultants. And so our budget comes to 1.459, which is a decrease from 2024. And that's just a reduction in the number of projects where we're holding the consultant bills. Are there any questions on the expenses? Or on revenue?
I have one. Just on the contracts. Could you explain again, because I was like getting a little echo here on my end. Why in 2025 they'd be down from what they are in 2024?
There are fewer contracts at the regional planning board where we are paying consultants.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion
Oh,
to,
let me go through it.
excuse me.
I mean, I have a plan to pay for it if you guys want to hear it.
Oh, wait, there's.
But wait, there's more. So revenue, county allocations, we'll talk about in a minute, but those are the calculated allocations for the county. The 5 counties, they come up to combined $50,420. We have our EDA planning grant steady at $70,000. We have our DEC, we haven't gotten a dollar amount yet, but hopefully it'll be around that same 145,000. We've got the interest from the loans, loan application fees, the town of Screw RLF, our AGFTC host agency agreement at $45,000. The Northern Border admin, I decreased It's really hard to budget that because we don't know how many projects we're gonna get. We don't know how much they're going to need us to help them. So I just didn't want to over budget on that dollar amount. That 15,000 fund balance is for the strategic plan if we end up going into 2025 with that. And then we have our grant contract. So we currently have 38 contracts listed here. We spent a lot of money in 2024. We're not doing as much in 2025. In terms of getting grant money in and spending it on consultants, like I just explained earlier. And so that's either admin fees or projects that we have secured for ourselves. And so you'll see we've got new projects added, and then we've got about 8 or 10 coming off the books at the end of 2024. And that brings us to the 1.459 million.
Any questions? Discussion? I'll entertain a motion to adopt the budget as presented.
I'll move it.
That was Sam, right?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Meg?
Meg.
Meg, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. And next we have the 5 county allocations.
Yep, so how I calculated the county allocations is outlined in the 5 county MOA. I gave you the numbers from the 2024 budget and then the 2025 proposed. The way I did this is from 2022 to 2023, the total equalized taxable value went up on average 15% per county. So I took the 43,844 and increased that by 50% to $50,420, which is a total increase of $6,576 combined. And so we will be asking the counties, Clayton County for $12,129, which is an increase of almost $1,400. Essex County for $9,473, which is an increase of $985. Hamilton County for $3,183, which is an increase of almost $300. Warren County, $15,535, which is an increase of $2,900, and Washington County for $10,100, which is an increase of $979.
Okay. Any questions? Comments?
Anybody have any opinions?
Any opinions, questions? I'll ask for a motion to adopt the 2025 county allocation as presented and discussed by Beth. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Most by Sam and second by Beth, right? Okay. Having a motion to discuss in a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next item is where feedback coming from, but are you getting feedback on the other end?
No.
Let me use the bathroom.
Okay. So the next is that one of the things that we've been trying to look at is future and how we're proceeding through making sure we have enough assets to get enough income to provide the services we're providing. And we, Beth, I, and Al have taken a look at this, and mainly towards Beth's energy to get this looking at the future, making sure we are growing and having enough income to give the services given to the county and to other counties. So we've come up with sort of a plan of looking at this. And I think we want to introduce a concept. And between now in October. We'll come up with a plan and some thoughts about it. And I hope to set up a subcommittee, one from each county, so we'll have input from each county on it. So it's not, we're not doing it in a vacuum, we get feedback as it goes along. So having said that, I'd like to have Beth explain it and read the projections and the reasons for why we're projecting changing some of our allocations going forward.
So, I mean, as everyone knows, the majority, and as we just went through with the budget, the majority of the funding that comes into the regional planning board is through competitive grants. And I have been around long enough to see the ebb and flow of the availability of competitive grants. And what we really need at the regional planning board is more what we call baseline funding. And that's the funding that we use to develop projects and to work with communities, not on a specific grant, so that we can keep the work moving. And so I would like to just talk to the counties and try to figure out a plan for really growth in the county contributions, and also just to look at what we're doing for the counties and is it in the right place, and are there other places that were needed. And so I wanted to start that conversation with the board, knowing that in a few years, I don't, want to get into a crisis situation. So I want to start thinking about it now.
I think that we've had some preliminary conversations, we haven't gone very far yet. We just want to introduce to the board. I think that from at least Washington County standpoint, I think based on what we get from the regional planning board, is that more than offsets any expenses we put in, even if we go to some other formula. And we don't know what it is, we just know some targets we want to look at. But I think it's time to have that discussion. I think that we have sort of noticed is that some of the places that grants are going to is shifting away from the capital district area. But we have to make sure we're equipped to do the things we're doing for counties, for highways, for MS4 funding, and helping towns and counties with grants, and getting grants. We have a very experienced staff to do that. And I think the results have shown that the regional planning board is a very viable solution to help counties get more grants and also help get the admins they need to support the grants. So that's sort of my feeling. I just wanted to throw it out there. Al, do you have any comments?
Well, I can't and won't speak for my board, but I know what these services would cost me should I need to take on another employee. So I'm definitely open to a conversation about, that base level funding from the planning board, because because of my role at Washington County, I kind of see directly the impact of what their service provides us. And the amount of money that's leveraged in Washington County for the pins that we send in now is quite large. We have several successful grants with the planning board through their efforts, and to get that same level of grant award would require an employee that I can't afford. So I would definitely be open to a conversation with the planning board and by extension, my board, to talk about the benefits of that base level funding and why it actually is feasible and maybe more so required.
And as some of the funding sources change how they're distributed, it becomes more and more competitive to make sure you have more and better structured and written grants to compete against others. So that's the business we've been in. And I think that's the business we want to help on and see what areas we help on. But we actually need to make sure that it becomes a viable source down the road as things come up. Any other discussion or comments? So we will be moving forward on this. We would like to have volunteers from each county. We'd like to have at least one from the board of each county. So if you can contact me or Beth, we'd appreciate it. Anyone want to put their hands up now?
You may be voluntold.
Yeah.
Wendell just volunteered. Al will be on it.
I'll do it, Dave.
Who's that?
Applet.
I won't have to call you then.
Clay, because you're an elected official, would you mind doing it for Hamilton?
Yeah, what exactly are you asking us to do?
Sorry.
Just be on a subcommittee and have some Zoom meetings to talk about the future.
Yeah, I can do it as long as it's not gonna be heavy lifting every, once a week or something,
Yeah, I think we're gonna put together a structured plan. We're gonna bounce it off people, look at, after we set the objectives, what we want to do, then bounce it off people, see their reaction. You have a better flavor of what's going on in Clinton County or Hamilton County or Essex County than we do. And so it helps get that input before we go too far on it. We hope to have it ready and out to the board before the October meeting. And so just opinions, discussion, and we'll do it all by Zoom.
it's fine. You can hear. Yeah.
I feel like if I ask Christy to be on another committee, she's gonna go through that screen.
Doesn't have to be from this group. We may want to solicit other people that aren't here today, so. We got Washington County, we have, Warren County, we want to elect Warren County. All right. So we're missing Hamilton,
No, please.
oh, sorry,
Essex.
Essex. All right,
Maybe get Jim on it.
Give it a good call. Give it a good call.
It's on here.
Yeah, he's
I
on
see.
the board, it's not on the.
Yes, you
Oh, he's not here
No.
today.
it's very hard to see people. We got little pictures up there,
Yeah.
so. Sorry about that.
We would have noticed. We have punishment for that.
What happens when you don't show up? Like?
Okay, well, thank you, and we'll get back to you on what we're doing from here, so we'll go from there. Anything else you want to talk about this? Okay, moving on. Save streets and roads for all projects.
All right, that's me.
All right. So many of you have probably received an email from me or may have even participated in some of our meetings a couple weeks back about our Road to Zero Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. This is part of the Federal Highway Administration's Safe Streets and Roads for All program. So in 2022, we applied for this grant from the Federal Highway Administration and received a little over $300,000, which was supplemented by New York State DOT for a total project cost of $400,000. Because of the large region that we cover, and the differences between our region, we decided to split it up into two separate plans. So we have the Adirondack Gateway region, which is Warren and Washington counties, and also a little bit of northern Saratoga County. We chose that because it's the area covered by the MPO, the AGFTC. And then the North Country Action Plan covers Essex, Clinton, and Hamilton counties. And the general overall goal of this planning process is to develop holistic, well-defined strategies that reduce or eliminate roadway fatalities and serious injuries for all users across the region. So that includes drivers, bikers, walkers, even Amish people, and, alternative roadway users of all types. So this is kind of an interesting time to be doing this because there's been a lot of research released lately, you may have seen, across the country, traffic injuries and fatal accidents are up. The New York State Comptroller just released a study last week, stated in New York State between 2019 and 2022, motor vehicle fatalities rose 25.8%. And you see this, this chart here. It's per 100,000 people. The North Country region is the leader in traffic fatalities at that 12.9% rating. So that's, pretty concerning here. So, it's I think a good time to be doing these plans and really looking at the areas in our region that are maybe persistent areas of persistent dangerous areas and areas that might be, host to these accidents. So how are we doing this? We are, first off, we contracted with Creighton Manning, who's a traffic engineering consulting firm, and they've collected lots and lots of data. This is one of those kind of interesting maps they've made. They've collected lots of crash data and compiled it on top of each other. So you can really look at these crash hotspots. And you see them kind of centered around Plattsburgh, or centered around Ticonderoga and Lake Placid. But there are little points along the ways where crashes are happening more frequently than other places around the region. This data is also telling us who is involved in these accidents, so we can pull out age information, and oftentimes if they are ticketed, we can tell why. So that might be, distracted driving or risky behavior. It could be age-related accidents or even time of day accidents. Is it low light? Is it dark? To formulate these plans, we are using that data. There's a lot more data than what we're seeing. We're also doing stakeholder engagement, which was part of that with those meetings we held a couple weeks ago, and some public outreach, which will be starting over the course of the next month. Our consultants will be out at events, talking to the public. We also have an online survey that we'll be sharing in the next slide or two we'll send out later or tomorrow, maybe too, that we would really encourage you to share with your communities. It is a map. There's also a place where people can fill in just verbally where they might feel are dangerous areas in their neighborhoods or communities. But we'll take these three things combined to create these plans and strategies. So these are the two. These are the two surveys for the safety action plans. The blue is the Adirondack Gateway. The green is the North Country. Again, we'll share these for you. These are social media posts, so you can just put them right on your Facebook or Instagram pages if you'd like, or we can also send you PDFs you can print out. The QR codes will take you right to the survey. We also have project websites we can share that you can also visit. And finally, a big part of this goal, after we establish the strategies that are based on, all of the issues and opportunities we identified through this planning process, is establishing this local action and collaboration. As you know, we at the Regional Planning Board are not a regulatory board. We can't make regulations, and sort of the solutions around traffic safety are education, engineering, and legislative. So part of this planning process is a local leadership commitment. So once this plan is finalized in March 2026, we'll be coming to you and making final presentations, and we'll be asking that each county make a commitment, hopefully adopt a resolution that is committing to reducing fatal roadway fatalities and serious injuries in some way in the future. So I think we're setting a target in our planning process of 2050. And doing this unlocks a whole lot of federal money. So this is the key. You might be seeing this, this Safe Streets and Roadway for All money available at the federal level. And once we have these plans in place for our region, all of your communities are eligible for this money for all sorts of things. So as we know, some safety money is, traffic and safety money is very hard to get for pedestrian infrastructure. This money is not. So you might be able to get this money for a sidewalk or trails and things like that. So I really encourage you to reach out to us if you have any projects or areas of interest you want us to take a look at, and reach out to me if you have any questions or you want to be part of our stakeholder interview process. I mean, yeah.
Just one question.
Sure.
Is that, in order to apply for loan, don't you have to have a comprehensive plan?
This will be a comprehensive safety action plan.
But don't towns have to have their own comprehensive plan? Okay, thank you.
Yep. So by doing it at the regional level, we are covering everyone.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Allison. Next is loan committee report. Christie?
I'm sorry, did you call on me for a loan committee report?
Yes, I did.
We were talking about streets, sorry. So the committee's met twice since the last board meeting. The committee approved a $200,000 loan request for the High Peaks Chiropractic Wellness in Lake Placid. The committee denied a $150,000 loan request from Tamila and Peppercorn in Schroon Lake. They are currently utilizing our small business technical assistance program to strengthen their business plan and their financial projects, and then they will reapply for a loan. Committee agreed to subordinate our collateral position for the Fort William Henry loan to Glens Falls National Bank. The committee determined there is still significant equity in the collateral to cover the loan. Todd Trulli, George Henry's loan is closing, will happen within the next week. And the Lake Champlain Lake George Regional Planning Board has begun legal action against Ryan Chafe and the RC Spot for non-payment. That completes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Christie? Yeah, Christie. Next, we have Economic Development Coordinator report.
So the full report is in the packet. I just thought I would highlight 3 of our projects right now. First is the Canalside Energy Park. We're moving forward on the infrastructure project. So if you recall, this was funded in part by an ESD Fast New York grant and HUD congressionally directed spending. And we put out an RFP for engineering services to complete the design and handle the bid process and construction oversight, and that was awarded to Labella Associates. We had a kickoff meeting on June 26th to get things moving, and right now things are moving along, and the plan is to be out for construction in December, out to bid for construction in December of this year, with a goal of construction beginning in 2025. Then the next project is Ticonderoga Revitalization Alliance's childcare center. It was funded through an NBRC grant. They are rehabilitating the former St. Mary's School into a childcare center. They have done a substantial amount of work inside the building, and they are completing outside playground structures. They last week held a family engagement event, and they have been doing pre-registration and will be open for the upcoming school year. So moved along quickly. And then the last project is the Washington County Fairgrounds broadband infrastructure upgrades. This was administered through EDA. The installation of broadband and live broadcasting capabilities. I just got good news in an email this morning that they are complete with installation and are just tweaking to make sure there's enough coverage everywhere, but everything is done and they are excited for the project to be online for this year's fair.
What was the first one? Sorry.
Canal Side Energy Park.
Thank you.
Mhm. That's all I've got.
Any further questions for Jessica or discussion? Thank you, Jessica. You've really done a great job with Canal Side Energy Park and, all the other things you've been doing. It's, glad to have you on board. It's nice.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jessica? All right, thank you very much, Jess. And now it's Principal Planner.
Thank you. For those of you who are with us in Clinton County, I want to introduce you, if you can, to our new Assistant Economic Development Coordinator, Cassandra Van Cott. She's been with us for about a month now and really hit the ground running and has really been an asset to us. Helped us a lot to fill in a lot of gaps that we've had and really has helped with a lot of programming and yeah, great. Thanks for doing this, Cassandra. Thank you guys. Come say hi to her when you can. All right, so last time we spoke, we had just applied to a lot of grants and we've heard about a lot of them. So that's been great. So we've worked with Adirondack Roots for an Adirondack Smart Growth Grant. We were successful in getting $300,000 for the regional pre-development program. Through that same Adirondack Smart Growth Program, we were successful for a $65,000 grant for later to do a comprehensive plan. Just heard about an NDRC award for the village of Granville to do a water line extension for an economic development program on Main Street. And a congressional directed spending request for a North Country housing initiative has been advanced. It is a $3 million request, but I think that we'll talk a little bit more about that in her discussion. I have been working on something brand new to me. We have a newish terrestrial invasive species in the Lake George watershed called Hemlock woollia delgit. And so there's a group of nonprofits, government agencies, research institutes partnering to kind of research this, figure out how to prevent the total loss of hemlock trees. And I recently applied for a grant from the Lake Champlain Basin Program to do an assessment and prioritization of treatment for the hemlock trees. So we'll be kind of working in conjunction with this coalition and a consultant on this work, moving it over the next couple of years. I'm excited about this and I think it'll be a challenge and we'll learn a lot. And you know, it's a big issue in the Lake George watershed, but other areas around our region have a lot of hemlocks as well. And this species does move quite a bit. So it'll probably be an issue other places relatively soon. And a little reminder, through our 604B funding, we provide a free service to communities with public drinking water supply. It's called the DWSP2 program, Drinking Water Source Protection Program. Sam is taking the lead on it right now. So if you do have a public drinking water supply that comes from surface or groundwater, we will work with you with planning and technical assistance. The purpose of this is to create a community sourced plan to provide long-term protection for your drinking water source. There are a lot of benefits to having this plan, a plan like this, but some tangible ones include preferable scoring on some WQIP programs, and they may lead the way for some new funding opportunities in the future. So if you are interested, please reach out to Sam. We're looking for some new communities to work with next year. And finally, we are having our conference on October 3rd in Lake Placid, and the RSVP registration link will be going out by the end of the month. It'll have some more information about presentations and sessions, so keep a lookout for that.
So I would encourage people who can is come to that, Board Together conference. It's been the past couple of years. It keeps on getting better. And Beth and crew have done a wonderful job of putting this together. It's a very valuable resource. It pulls a lot of people together and puts up a lot of great presentations. So I would suggest if you can, try and come to it. Thank you very much.
The hours of your Forward Together.
8:30 to 12.
What's the hours of the?
Yeah, 8:30 to 12. And then we're gonna have a lunch this year that's an add-on.
There's actual speed dating with funding agencies after lunch.
Where you can talk to representatives from federal funding agencies about their programs and maybe some one-on-one talk about projects, ideas. So we're trying to pull that together.
Great addition.
Sounds like a great place for a treasurer to.
All right, anything else for Allison? Any questions? All right, thanks very much, Allison, for all your work. And now for director's report. I'll turn it over to Beth and she can take it away.
All right, I just picked a couple of things I wanted to highlight, some state and federal outreach that we've been doing. Something that's really exciting is the New York State Senate and the Assembly, with no dissension, passed a bill authorizing regional planning council's eligibility for federal and or state grants. There's a lot of grant programs, state grant programs that we as the regional planning board were not eligible for, which means we've had to go through counties, go through communities. It's a lot of extra paperwork and steps to do. And so this is going to open those programs up to us so we can apply and we can do the work and not have to pass through any communities. So it has been sent to the governor for signature, and so we're working to make sure that that gets signed by the end of the year. Just wanted to note, I received a 2024 Woman of Distinction Award from Assemblyman Matt Simpson last month. I'm also an active board member of the National Association of Development Organizations. And I did some presentations. I attended the Adirondack Planning Forum and the AATV meeting representing Regional Planning Board.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Adirondack Day on May 6th. This was the first time that we went down there. We were asked to head up the housing display. And so we asked some friends from Adirondack Roots and Adirondack Foundation and Roost to join us. So we tried to figure out how to make this conversation not boring and just asking people to come over to our table and talk to us about housing. So we created a little board game with Chutes and Ladders, Adirondack style. And it went really well, and I think everybody had a fun time with it. We had some chocolate houses as surprises. Assemblyman Jones and Assemblyman Simpson stopped by, and a lot of the staffers in the state, Gary Douglas, played the game with us too, so we had a good time down there.
You lost me chocolate.
Just some more about housing. I did present at the town of Plattsburgh's housing symposium. And I also participated in an economic development leaders workshop with the Adirondack Foundation, and also presented on housing at the APA meeting. As Allison mentioned, before we submitted a $3 million congressionally directed spending application through Congresswoman Stefanik's office for the North Country Housing Initiative. I found out last week from her staff that not only did it make it through the Transportation, Housing and Urban Development Subcommittee, but they worked to increase the ask to $5 million. So it's now moving forward to the Appropriations Subcommittee as a $5 million request through HUD's Economic Development Initiative program. Broadband and cell. The draft broadband deployment plan is in review. I actually had a meeting with the consultants yesterday. There's a little bit more work that I think that they need to do on that, so we're going back and forth a little bit. We did complete the New York State Broadband Challenge, so we submitted 606 provider challenges and 173 location challenges. We also submitted public comments on the grant areas, so the way that the federal funding for broadband will be allocated across the state is based on grant areas created by the state that the providers are going to bid on. And we had some comments on the way that the state drew the grant areas. We felt some of them, well, most of them, there was a better way to do it. So they can take it or leave it, but we put it in there. And we're always talking to the Connect All office. And we facilitated conversations with them around cell service. Not that broadband's over, but cell is also a big part of our communications, our telecommunications issues within the region. And so we want to keep that conversation going with them as well, of how to boost and do better with cell service. I will say we submitted a grant to MBRC Catalyst program to do a cell study, very much like we did with broadband. It wasn't funded through the Catalyst program, but the state recommended it to MBRC USDA co-funding. So we've never gone down this path before, but it's not totally dead. So we should hear about that in September. Our loan funds, as Christy mentioned, one loan approved, one denied. I do have one in underwriting from St. Lawrence County. We're working to close the Todd Truly George Henry's loan. Our small business technical assistance program had 15 businesses total. 7 are underway, 7 are complete. We did have one from Essex County cancel out due to some family issues, but we had some nice things said about the program, about our loan program from Uncle Carl's Coffee in Wells and Hamilton County. We did a loan with them and they went through our small business technical assistance program. So we were happy to hear that.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I think that, looking at, certainly director's report and things she did listed on here. A lot of effort, a lot of work goes into that. And it's been great to see the progress. I was just sitting here thinking 6 years ago, we were sitting down in Lake George and retuned the agency. And the progress we made and the growth we made have accomplished is really fascinating. And a lot of that is because of Beth's energy and work, and also Al guiding on the accounting side. So I think that we made a lot of progress, and I think there's still ways that with Beth and Allison and Jessica and Sam. Sandra, I'm sorry. I remember.
Okay.
I think I forget. But well, no, that's in the way. At least there's a lot of growth and a lot of challenges in front of us, and look forward to serving the county. Thank you very much, Beth. So next.
Chairman, before you move on, I just had one question for Beth. The Senate Assembly bill that's on its way to the governor, is there anything that the county should or could do to help in as far as advocacy to kind of help her understand a bit how important that is? Is there anything we can do for you, I guess is the question.
Not right now, but I will let you know.
And the broadband is going on for quite a while around here, but it's been a frustrating event because there's still a lot of people who need broadband. And unfortunately, getting the funding sources out and getting there has been a lot of preparation, a lot of effort on Beth's part and everyone else's part in researching it. You know, in Warren, Washington County, or Laura Oswald has been heavily involved in it. But it's been frustrating when people have a need and can't tell them you can tell them something's coming down the road, but when, we don't know. So thank you for that effort. That's been really wonderful.
Chairman, if I could pigtail on that too, I just want to make this board aware that Washington County is in discussions with the regional planning board to administrate a broadband loan program. So just a a heads up that that's something that we're discussing. We have some ARPA funds that we could not use for the original design broadband use, but I think that there's another way that we can still help residents, and we're gonna work closely with the regional planning board to see if we can make that get across the finish line. So just for a heads up to this board, we're working with that to see what we can do to still get some service to those, that last mile guy that still needs internet.
So thanks for that, Al. Just one correction, it won't be loan program, it'll be grant program.
There's a program in discussion.
Yes, thank you. All right, any other questions to come before the board? So I will say, and Beth just reminded me, is that I know it's a busy time for all. We do have the need to have our boards here to approve our budgets. And we need to figure out a way to make sure we get as many voting members here as possible. Not that the official members aren't important, but the voting members are important. And, unfortunately, due to some unforeseen circumstances, 3 people dropped out this morning. Fortunately, we were able to fill the gap. Contacted a couple of people who had not indicated they're coming, and they came. So we did make our quorum, but it's so important to see how we can help the counties get involved, because without them, it becomes more and more difficult to have a meeting, have a quorum, and get things decided when we need to. So thank y'all for coming, and we'll go from here.
RDC members don't leave.
RDC members don't leave, so I will. Anything else? The meeting is adjourned at 2:14. RDC members?
Meg Wood and Beth Hunt do not leave.
Any other ones staying?
In this
We'll be
yep.
here.
All right. Some are more important than
So
others.
is that the short straw?
That's good to see you.
Obviously, can't turn it off.
There you are. Or you can go ask next door. I probably will. Okay. I don't want to rank it, but.
Bob, you can leave.
I'm just sorry, I left you unattended. Yes.
Okay, I'd like to call the art. Do we need a break? Okay. I'm going to call the RDC meeting to order. I'd like to welcome you all to the RDC meeting. First item of business is approval of the March 29, 2024 meeting minutes. As mailed, do I have a motion? Shannon, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Al. Any omissions or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Treasurer.
This is one of the most pleasurable reports I've ever given. It could take about 3 seconds. We have $51,000, nothing owed to us, and we don't owe anybody.
Nailed it.
We,
And you didn't put the last punctuation in. We're gonna vote the RDC.
we actually have begun the process of the dissolution of the RDC, so stay tuned. And it's really, I joke, but it really is a pleasure to report that all the loans are paid and we still have some cash in the bank, because there was a time where we thought we were gonna have to hang up our shingle a different way. So all things considered, it's a good report and we're got an exit plan in place.
The RDC was the toughest loans we had. There's two of them, we grade those out. Yeah. We did. Okay.
Motion on the treasurer's
Motion on the treasury report. Shannon, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any omissions or, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. And last but not least is the 2025 ABO budget.
Yep. So this is something I have to do every year. To Paris. So here we go. So this is the way that I have to put it to Paris. We have last year actual, current year adopted. I know that our current 2024 year, might look a little different than we had anticipated here, but it'll get changed next year when we do the actual. So we've got next year projected, as Al mentioned, we have no revenue coming in. Our only expense will be the audit, hopefully, and probably some legal fees that we're not 100% sure what those are gonna end up costing. But at the end of the day, basically, we have no revenue and $4,000 in expenditures. And that there's enough cash in the bank account to cover that. And we are hoping by the end of 2025 that the RDC will be closed, which is why you'll see for 26, 27, and 28, everything is zeros because we will have dissolved the nonprofit.
We're doing a big company interest.
No,
The pennies and
different
his.
tax ID,
The
but yeah.
pennies- pennies and his. All right, any other questions for Beth on the budget?
Yeah.
Need a motion to adopt the budget?
Move it.
I'll move it.
Al, second by Beth. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Any other business? We are adjourned. Thank you much for your time.
3 minutes.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Um,
That sounds neat.